Hi everyone, and welcome again to my channel. Today we're going to talk about how to find your life purpose. Now, this has been a question that I have had for a long time because what is your life purpose in the end? Everybody wants to know what my life purpose is. And it really took me a while to understand how to even question myself, how to even question the universe, like the world, to understand what my life purpose was. And then, as every time I had answers coming from observing. Every time we want to have an answer, indeed, we just have to observe nature, observe everything, the plants, the animals, the sky, how nature and its phenomena works, because everything is just a bigger scale. It's like our body is made of cells, and then we as human beings are part of society. And so, what is your life purpose? This question is better answered if we think of ourselves as part of a whole, because we are part of a whole. The universe creates everything for a reason, in a way, and everything is created to respond to the law of the universe. And so there is a meaning to everything, a purpose to everything that we cannot understand if we try to look above, if we try to look above us, because we can't comprehend something that is bigger than ourselves. As much as a leaf doesn't understand its function to a tree, but by being a leaf has a function, we as human beings cannot understand our function by looking at the wholeness, but we understand our function while looking down. Instead of looking above, we should look down, because looking down we can see patterns that are in a smaller scale. And so by looking at those, we can understand how we ourselves are part of a bigger structure, of a bigger scheme that we don't always understand, just because we are the part of a whole, as much as a leaf is part of a tree, as much as a flower is part of a tree, and as much as a cell is part of our body. So each cell of our body has a function, but the cell itself doesn't always know that it has a function, right? So our pancreatic cells produce insulin, and they are made in a way that they produce insulin, and this is what they do for our body. And without them be doing their function for our body, no one else will do that. No one of our other cells of our body will be capable of doing the same thing, because those cells are created on purpose for us to have insulin. And without insulin, we have pathology. And so if our pancreas doesn't work, no one else in our body can replace the same function. So what is the purpose of a pancreas? What is the purpose of a pancreatic cell? The purpose is to make insulin and to do all the other functions that that specific cell is created to do, to embody. And in the same way, what does our muscles do? Our muscles can contract, and thanks to the fact that their cells are built with contractile properties, they can allow us to walk and to move our hands and to do everything that we do with movement. And so if those cells don't do their job, we can't move and we will die. But in the same way as we will die without insulin. And so every cell of our body has a purpose, as much as a leaf and a flower have different purposes for a tree. A leaf, when it's created, doesn't know what its purpose is. And looking at the flower may think, if the leaf has a brain, right, may think, why am I not this pretty? Why am I not this beautiful as a flower? But because the leaf has a different function, and they both are equally important. And the purpose of the leaf is to be, just to be, because by being, because the universe created the leaf different than the flower. For the leaf to be, that's the purpose, because for how it's being created allows the tree to use oxygen and carbon dioxide, and to create the matter the tree is made of, and the matter the flower is made of. And the flower instead is as pretty and as beautiful because the bees have to go there. The bees have to be attracted to it so that they go inside the flower and they get the pollen and they help creating the seeds, the fruit and the seeds of the tree to help perpetuate the system. And in the same way of the food chain, the lion kills and eats the gazelle because the lion doesn't do it, the gazelles become too many, and too many gazelles will eat the grass. And eating all the grass will result in not having oxygen, and not having oxygen will result in everybody else dying. And so this is the purpose. This is your purpose. This is my purpose, to be. And even though we're born in a way that we are unaware of our purpose, our purpose is to find our purpose. But at the same time, by being ourselves, even though we don't know, we are already having a function, a purpose. The fact that we feel the need of having a purpose that is bigger than ourselves, that is the ego talking, because by understanding that we are not in control because there is a bigger intelligence behind us. And I'm not talking about God, I'm talking about the universe. The universe is created inherently to respond to the laws of the universe. And so everything that is created in the universe responds to those laws. And so we are, as human beings, are all different because we as human beings all have a function. And our function in the world is to be ourselves. That's our purpose, to be ourselves, because even though we don't realize it, even though we don't know about the bigger scheme, there is a bigger scheme we are part of. And by being us, we allow something else to happen that we don't know, but we allow something else to be in balance. And after I realized this, after I realized that we have to just be, then my first question was, so how about the bad people? How are they supposed to just be? How about the ego? Is it just supposed to be? And so is the world supposed to be this way? And the answer to that is no, because even in a body we have cancer, and cancer is just a mutation, and a mutation is part of the system, and the system is in balance with itself. The universe is in balance with itself because yes, there is cancer, but there are ways in our body that we go against cancer. We can fight cancer. There are ways in nature that we can fight cancer. We just forgot about them. We just started to live a life that increases our likelihood to develop cancer, and cancer is something that just happened, like everything. The universe works through experiments. The universe creates things, and then there's always a side effect and a vulnerability in every property that we have. And so yes, there are mutations in the system, and not everything is good, but the universe creates things in a way that those things are somewhat stopped by someone else in the system. And even though it sounds fatalistic, and believe me, this is not how I thought before having this awakening to this bigger scheme, even though we don't realize it, even people that are naive and are victims of narcissistic abuse, for example, they are created by the universe for them to stop the abusers, in a way, for them to act as a pillow for the abusers. And the problem is that now these things spread so much that the universe had to create a lot of victims because there are a lot of predators, a lot of abusers. And so the ego is a mutation. And by being ourselves, by understanding, if you are aware of these dynamics, your purpose is to be aware. If you want to spread the light of this awareness on abusive behaviors and narcissistic behaviors, that is your purpose in the world, to spread these things. This is why you're created. And it goes deeper than that, because even though we don't realize it, even though we believe, we are also almost brought to believe by our society that we're all the same, and at the same time we're all different. We're all different doesn't just mean that we all have different things we like. We are different for a reason. They're like, even the Myers-Briggs personality traits in the 16 personality definition, there are 16 different personalities, and they have different frequencies in the population because the population needs a certain number of those individuals to reach a balance. This is why in a tribe there is one leader, one shaman, 10 workers. It's like in a hive. It's like a hive of bees. There are soldiers and there are roles in society. And it's not because those are one of them is more important than the other. And this is why it's not supposed to be a hierarchy. It's supposed to be a balance. It's supposed to be a society. And it's not that the leader is better than the other people, than the workers. But the leader has leadership skills that the workers don't have. And the workers have go-getting skills that the leader maybe doesn't have. And so together they maintain and sustain society, and they allow their society and their tribe to survive and to have food and to build things. And so every one of those has a purpose. That doesn't mean that anything makes them better than the others, like in a hive where the queen bee has the purpose of reproducing the bees, and the nurses have the purpose of taking care of the queen bee, and the soldiers have the purpose of protecting the hive. And so every one of those bees has a different purpose because it's inherently different from the others, and it has inherently different properties and different abilities and different skills than the other bees. And no one else could do that function unless they do it themselves. And so every one of us has skills and potentials and capabilities and abilities that make us become a function that if we don't do it, nobody else will, because we are unique. And every one of us has a different frequency in the population because we are part of a fractal of things where by being ourselves, we give rise to a bigger structure, which is society, is a tribe, is population. And by being ourselves, we allow things to create these bigger fractal structures and schemes that the universe is creating through us. And in the end, what is our function as human beings in general? Today in society, we have this idea that we can become anything we want, and we all can become doctors, and we all can become this and that. Reality is that that's the ego talking, and this is why we have a society that doesn't work anymore, because being a doctor entails having certain capabilities and certain empathy and certain type of discerning abilities and critical thinking abilities, but also the desire to help others, a rewarding system in our brain that makes us feel rewarded when we help others. That is a doctor. You can't become a doctor if you don't have that kind of reward system, because otherwise what you become is just, you become an employee of a health insurance company, because you're not doing it because you have skills, you're doing it for money. And so this is the same for everything. All of us have a role, and this raise to become, to become a professional that has nothing to do with our personal skills we're born with, comes from capitalism, comes from hierarchies, comes from believing in a hierarchy where a higher social status corresponds to something better or a better salary. And of course, in a society where only doctors are rich, only a certain kind of social status corresponds to a better life, everybody wants to be that. So what we have to understand is that we have not been built for that by the universe. We forgot. The ego made us think that we have to be separate from others, like a cancer cell. The ego is nothing else than like cancer for our body, because what is a cancer cell in the end? A cancer cell is a cell that starts refusing the function that he has in the body and starts de-differentiating, like start de-evolving, start becoming more neutral and rejecting the function that the body had for it, and starting to believe. Please understand that, of course, a cell doesn't have a brain to believe things, but still, is an analogy, is a metaphor to make you understand what I mean. A cell starts believing she has to do whatever she wants. She has to claim a space for itself, to perpetuate itself, instead of acting as a part of a whole. And so this is what cancer is. Cancer is the same thing as the ego. A narcissist is nothing else than a person that is being enslaved to the ego, and that the ego makes that person think that she or he has to claim something for himself or for herself. Like, instead of acting like a part of the whole, they just act like they're doing this for themselves. And these metastasizes, and today we have elites that are just narcissistic, and they're just trying to claim things for themselves because they forgot they're just part of a whole. And now cancer became, the ego in our society became a cancer that is very big. But what we don't understand is that every empire, every society that was enslaved by the ego disappeared. All the empires in our society somewhat disappeared, got destroyed by the ego. And so today, the universe is, every time the universe tries to evolve from the ego, because the evolution of the ego was just, it happened, it's part of our evolution, but now the universe has to move past it, because if it doesn't, what will happen is just that our planet will be destroyed. It's just a matter of time. And this is why also rich people, narcissistic people, are trying to go and conquer other worlds. And this is why we have now the metaverse reality, and we have all of these different realities that we create, because the ego seeks space, because the ego, once it conquers something, it destroys something, then it needs something else. And once we finished conquering the whole world geographically, we started building the stock market, because that's another hierarchy that the ego can climb. And once we finish conquering the stock market and the hierarchy there are also already defined, then we build social media, because that's another hierarchy we can climb. And then we built another social media and another social media. We're building the crypto world, and then we will build the metaverse world. And the point is that it will never stop. It will never stop, because the ego claims space, because the ego is like a cancer. So the only way to stop, because it's a loop, the ego will never stop. And it's the ego in ourselves. It's the ego in ourselves that make us want more space, because it's a cancer. It's a cancer. We're just a cell that is part of the cancer. We decided to wipe out all of our already inherent properties that we already have, that the universe built for a reason, and we decided to wipe that away for us to believe in all the other cancer cells that tell us that we have to become something different than what we already are. And instead, our purpose in the world is to be us, What we forgot is that the reason why we've been created as human beings is the same reason as lions have been created, and gazelles have been created, and trees have been created, because here we have a role. We have a unique role. And you can see in nature that every species, every animal, every plant has a different property. And that property is what confers the function, the purpose to that specific being, to that specific species. What is that makes us different as human beings as compared to everybody else in the universe? Hence, that is what makes us different. We have a brain. We are capable of understanding the harmony, the world, the art, the music. And we have the hands that allow us to make things, to fix things. And we can walk, so we can colonize the planet and build things and continue the creative process of the universe through our hands. That's what we are. We are fixers, we are creators, we are artists, we are musicians, we can dance, we have our body because we can dance. And that's what the universe wants from us, to create. But we forgot. We forgot that this is why we are here, to just continue the creation. And we started claiming a space for ourselves against nature. We started building cities against nature. We started building walls in our houses to keep nature away. And instead, this is not what we're here for. We just forgot. Our actual purpose is just to continue the creation, to be ourselves and to build societies, but in a selfless way, as part of a whole, to help animals with our strategic planning abilities and with our capability of manipulating the environment. But we are supposed to do it in a way that we help the universe. We are in balance with the universe. We're in balance with nature, with the animals. Nobody else has an open and thumb and hands that we can use to grab things and to manipulate things. And nobody else in the universe has, not in the universe, I don't know if there are other planets with people like us or similar to us, but in our planet, we are the only ones that evolved to have these specific abilities. We have hands, we have legs, we can move, we can manipulate the environment, and we can do it in an artistic way because our brain allows us, our brain understands art. And that's what we do. And we have empathy and compassion to build societies and to build relationships. And that's another way of creating. We help the universe, co-creating. We are the hands of the universe. That's what we are. We just forgot that this is our role. We just started believing we have to wipe away all the things that we already have, all the skills that we already have, just because society created this, the ego created this hierarchy where you cannot just be you. Because if you are just you, you may fall into a category of people that is poor. And instead, this is not the point. This is not the point. The communistic philosophy is right. We have to have a world where we allow people to just be themselves, and that should not matter. It should not make them be more or less than anybody else. We should all be the same because we all have a role in the world as a wholeness, as part of a fractal. And if we don't do this, our society will just end. And not the universe. The universe will not end. We will end as an empire, as a society, as a civilization. We will end. And the universe is just creating, continuously creating people that have different shapes and different properties and different abilities, just because the universe adapts to all these things. And this is why today we have all these rays in autism, because covert narcissism is based on perceiving other people's emotions based on their verbal and non-verbal communication. And this is why now we have a raise in people that have a mismatch between their internal world and their external expression of what they think, because the gray rock is the only way to fight narcissism, and the universe is evolving from there. And so if we don't stop narcissism, we are just going to become less capable of creating, or less capable of doing things, or less expressive externally, or less happy, just because the universe has to counteract the spread of the ego, in society. We are just a cancer. We are just a cancer for this planet unless we awaken from the ego. The ego is just being evolved because initially we needed to spread. And so we evolved it, but then now we have to evolve from there because we already had several civilizations in the past. All the empires that fell in the past fell because of the ego, because the ego spreads, because you can start with trying to conquering things and being the leader and being the elite, but then after a while the ego spreads to the population and everybody becomes a narcissist, and then you have to start conquering a new population to seek people that don't have an ego outside of your tribe, of your civilization. And this is why all the empires started conquering new territories and new tribes and started submissing other populations to their empire, because they had to acquire skills that they lost, because narcissists lack skills, lack artistic skills, lack empathy, like all the things that you need to actually be able to build a successful civilization. And so this, every time the ego spreads, the civilization starts becoming weaker and weaker and less bonded, and everybody acts for itself, and it's like a cancer. And the only way to maintain the cancer is to grab things from the outside. Like cancer creates angiogenesis and induces angiogenesis to get supplies from the body, because otherwise just the accumulation of cancer cells just make themselves die, because there's no oxygen anymore. And this is the same thing. The ego spreads, and the ego needs supplies from the outside world, because otherwise it dies. But by spreading, it transforms everything into cancer. And so today we have that our society is just a huge mass of cancer. We have to awaken from that, or otherwise we'll just end. And we just have to understand that having a bigger purpose doesn't mean being aware of the bigger scheme. It means being us, like a leaf. If a leaf suddenly decides not to be a leaf but to be a flower, the leaf cannot be a better flower than the flower, can just be a worse leaf. And so the leaf has to be a leaf. And so you have to be you. You have to be yourself, embody yourself, own it, and be that person in the world. And your purpose changes through life, because our properties change, our body changes, our capabilities change through life. And so you, as an unaware child, don't have the same properties as the aware adult you will become, and don't have the same properties as the awakened but weaker, physically weaker, older person you will be. And so everybody has a purpose in the world, that we should adjust our purpose by just expressing who we are every day. And if who we are is leaders, we must be leaders. But not everybody is born to be a leader. Some people are born to have a reward system that make them happy when they work, when they do physical labor, and they have to do physical labor because that's what makes them happy. So just be you. That's your purpose. Just be you. Let go of your ego and just embrace your reward system. What is that you like to do? What is it you like to do? So question things. Do you like debating with people? Maybe you have to be a debater. Maybe you have to make people awaken from their own reality, and you have to debate continuously, because to argue continuously, because you're meant to be the one that opens the minds of people that are narrow-minded. Or maybe you're a teacher. You got rewarded when you teach others. So teach, because that's your purpose. Maybe you got rewarded when you are by yourselves. Maybe you should be by yourself, because maybe by being in the world, you're not helping anybody, not even yourselves. Unfortunately, what happened with our society is that our reward system is now messed up, and our society is not built anymore to allow us to be, but we have to go back to that. And I'm not talking about going back to a tribe, because also society is evolving. We have to go back to a selfless state. We have to go back to understanding that we have a role. And yes, we can create schools, we can create art, we can create things, and everything is supposed to be more and more complex and more complicated, and it requires more and more complicated skills and advanced skills and more specific roles in society. But what we don't understand, what we misunderstood, is that not all of us can be everything. We have to find our own purpose, which is just a reward system. What is the rewards you? What is the rewards you right now? Do that. Do that. Be present and do that specifically. Do that, because that will lead you to be part of the bigger scheme that the universe has for everybody. And if you don't, you're just going to become a cancer. You're just being toxic to the system. So just do what it's good for you, for your soul. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. As a kid, you may be very annoying, but that's your purpose. As an adult, you can be very in the zone in doing your own thing. You're like, I don't even understand, why am I so happy doing this thing? That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. What you're doing in that moment, That is your purpose. And by doing that, that's your inner purpose. That's what Eckhart Tolle calls the inner purpose. And the outer purpose is something that comes as a result that you don't have to see. Because maybe by being yourself, you are supposed to cross the path of someone else, someone, a different type of person that needs you as a kind of person to fall in their own purpose and to perform their own purpose. But if you're not yourself, if you're not you, and it goes even beyond that, because you can be you when you're aware of who you are. Reality is the universe, the intelligence of the universe makes up for people that also are unaware. And so if you're unaware, it's all already thought of. It's a scheme. It's already a fractal. Even if you don't know who you are, even if the leaf doesn't know that it's a leaf, the leaf is built in a way that will do its job. And by being a leaf, it will allow the tree to exist. And so you don't have to know. You just have to be you. Be yourself. Be yourself. Be your own reward system. Allow your own reward system to guide you and to make you do things. And just be that. And at the same time, awakening to your purpose is important, because then you can do it. That's our purpose, to awaken to our purpose, because then you can do it in a more conscious way, and you can embrace it in a conscious way instead of, being pushed back and forth. But also, being pushed back and forth until we awaken is part of the scheme of the universe. We are part of it, and so as part of it, we are supposed to be pushed away all the time, because that makes us awaken. And so that's your purpose. Your purpose is to be you, and by being you, to encounter obstacles, and by encountering those obstacles, you're gonna do what you've been designed to do: awakening. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you will understand what your purpose is by looking inside of yourself, and by looking down instead of looking above, by looking to the smaller things, to the plants, to the trees, to seashells and waves, to understand how the universe works, and to see the bigger schemes, how you are part of a bigger scheme that you don't always understand, like a leaf doesn't understand what her job is for the tree, but you are part of it. You are part of a bigger purpose. You just don't know. So just be you. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.